Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another live session where we're going to be focusing on color. So we're going to look at a few shots in a second where we can really see what the advanced color tool can do. Give us a shout out in the comments where you're from. It's nice to have you joining us again. And you're very welcome to share the kind of things that you shoot as well, because that gives me an idea what to cover as well. So what we're going to look at today, as I said, color-wise, so we've got 3 shots which are going to make us all very hungry, I'm sure. But these are quite good for kind of digging into the kind of possibilities that we can do with the advanced color tool. So if there's time at the end, we might have a little look at the basic tool as well. But my plan is just to really show you the full strength of what advanced can do. So let's hide my browser for a second, and then let's just zoom in a little bit. And what we're going to be looking at really is this guy over here. So the color editor is split into basic, advanced and skin tone. We had a little look at skin tone last week, but today, as I said, we're going to concentrate on advanced. Now the advanced tool is often something that's overlooked, because when you first look at the tool, actually let's bring it out and make it a bit bigger so we can see better. When you first look at the advanced color tool, it's often a bit intimidating because, you know, all the sliders are grayed out, for example. You know, there's nothing of appearance in the tool, so it's more of a case of where do you start. So once you know how, it's really super simple. So what we do is pick up this color picker here, for example. So it says pick color correction, and then we go over to the area of the shot that we want to look at. Or sorry, the color tone that we want to pick. So I'm going to pick over on the carrot here, for example, and then you'll see what happens straight away in the color tool is that we see a suggestion, and it's just a suggestion of the color range that we're going to edit. Now the little dot right in the center of that triangle, that is the exact picked color. So that dot is the picked color. Now moving it around doesn't actually have any change. It works in the skin tone tab, as you saw the other week, but in the advanced tab there's no sort of real benefit for moving that, but it's indicating the exact picked color that we made. And then the hard lines show us the color range that we're going to edit. Now it's very difficult to obviously visualize that, so there's a really clever trick in the color tool, which is down here, which is view selected color range. So as soon as we turn that on, if you noticed, everything that is not part of that color range has now gone to black and white. So we're literally visualizing what this range is. Now this range is just a suggestion. So we can pick up, say, let's say either side, and then we can expand out our color range, and notice how more of the colors fill in on the shot, because that's indicating they are also going to be part of any edits that we come to do. So by moving these lines on the outside, this changes our color range. So if I come very close to my pick point, you see we nearly isolate everything else. And the same with this way. If we go here, let's just bring this guy up a bit closer. We can get very isolated sort of color range selection like so. So again, going this way and this way, this is expanding our color range around the circle. So the more we go into this selection, you can see quite nicely. So it's really easy to select the color range you want. Now, often when we think of the advanced color editor, we think about, okay, it's designed for making really kind of small, tight color corrections. That's not the case. It can be, but it's also very good at making, okay, I want to change my oranges and reds at the same time, or my yellows and greens, for example. So that's what this direction does. Now this direction is the saturation range. So let's zoom out a little bit so we can see a little bit more, like so. And what happens if we grab the top and then we cut that out? So again, if we look down here on our carrots, let's zoom in. So if I say let's include the most saturated of those colors, it comes up. If we cut them out, then you see it starts to chop them out. Now what's this fuzzy edge around the side here? That relates to the first slider, smoothness. Now that's not like smoothness of texture or anything like that. It relates to the roll off around the neighboring colors. So right now we're kind of going to bleed into the neighboring colors a little bit. Now if we were to make the smoothness really hard, so if we go all the way sort of down, you can see that we get that hard cutoff in between those carrots. So like in those strips there, like so. If we bring the smoothness up, then it bleeds better across. Now generally you don't really have to play with smoothness. The default is about right. So it's normally set around 20. I don't know if we'll see much if we cut out the lower saturated tones. There we go. So again, you can see the difference. So super useful for making those really tight selections. Now, once we have that selection, then of course you can then go on to make your edit. So what do we end up actually selecting after that? So let's say, let's go this way a bit and that, so we can fill all those things in like so. Turn off view selected color range, and then now we've got the 3 sliders, hue, saturation, and lightness, which we can then play around with the edits. So for example, if we wanted to desaturate our selection, we could just bring that down. If we wanted to just boost it up a bit, and you get the idea, changing the density as well. Now the hue slider, that is effectively changing the picked color to one of its near neighbors by as much as 30 degrees. So here is my picked color down at the bottom of the color editor. So if I bring hue in this direction, then it changes like so. If I bring the hue in the other direction, then we're coming more towards the reds like so. And you can see that change here as well. So it's a really super duper powerful tool in that respect. Now, a couple of little shortcuts that you can make, which might be Lorenzo's question, actually. So let's just squeeze this down again. You've got 4 symbols here. This one just simply says, let's say you ended up with a suggested color range like this. If we click this one, then it just pops it out to the full saturation range. This one will invert it like so. So that's quite a good strategy if you want to protect a color, but then edit everything else. So we picked our sort of the items on the plate here. After inverting it, if I change lightness, it'll sort of change everything else except for the pick colors. Or if I desaturate, then you see everything is changing except for those pick colors. So that's what that does. Now, these 2 symbols, this relates to, you know, the number of different picks you can do. So let's have a look at a different shot. 1 second. Let's see. So this one, this is a better example for lots of different picks. So let's zoom in a little bit. And also quite good for showing the saturation range as well. So let's do what we did before. Grab our picker. Let's pick our berries, for example. And then again, much easier if you turn on view selected color range, so we can see exactly what's in that selection. Now you probably can't quite see it, but there's a little dot just on the edge. That was my picked color. Now we're picking up a bit of the crust here, I reckon. So if I probably go in this direction, you see we can include that or isolate it like so. So again, make a nice specific correction. If I go this way, then you see we start to lose the lower saturated reds on the berries itself. So I'm going to just keep that maxed out. Turn off view selected color range. Now we can quite happily just edit those really simply. Now if we want to make more picks, we just grab our picker again. Let's say we wanted to go out just on the cloth background. Again, a suggested color range. Turn on view selected color range. Pretty good selection. Turn that off, and then now we can just play around with those adjustments like so. So it's, you know, it's a really super powerful tool in that respect. So 30 different picks. So that's what these symbols are down here. Plus to add another color pick if we wanted, and minus to delete one. And we can also preview what each one is doing, like so, by turning the tick checkbox off, on and off, like so. So again, if we wanted another one, I could grab the inside of the peach, I guess is what it is, and then edit further and so on. To preview everything that the advanced color editor is doing, same as before on the master preview, hold your Alt key down, click on reset, and then you can see before and after like so. Good question from Sven I just saw pop up. Can you change more pics at once? No. So you need to load up the pic that you want to have. Oh, let's move Sven's comment so we can see. You need to load up the pic that you want to edit, and then you see the color wheel changes so you know which one you're editing, like so. Okay, I had one more little example that we can talk about, because you've seen, I'm just going to put this back away so we have some room. You've seen how you can be, very broad or very specific with the color editor. Now, of course, if you're being very specific, it might be because you want to isolate a particular color. Now, in this situation, let's zoom in a little bit. Let's hide our browser. In this situation, let's say I want to edit the soup or adjust the soup. So I grab my color picker, I click on the color I want to edit, turn on, scroll down a bit so we can see it, turn on view selected color range, and you can see we're picking up, whoops, undo that one. We're picking up some of her skin. So we might be able to think, okay, let's come out of this range. Can't really fully isolate it. This direction, just pretty much isolate it there. But of course, if I only want to affect this area, nothing I do, unfortunately, will ever stop me preventing from adjusting these guys as well. But like any other tool in Capture One, it can become more awesome by adding a layer. So let's grab our brush. Going to right click to get our brush parameters up, like so. And I'm just going to do a really simple mask. You can see my mask if I press M. We're just going to mask this area like so. Not going to be super critical about it. Press M again to show the mask. Back into the color editor. I'm now on this layer, so let's call that soup, for example. Soup, soup. That's more like it. Grab my color picker. Click again like so. Now this time, I'm not even going to bother being picky about turning on view selected color range and all those things, because my color pick is within this layer. So it's only going to affect what's in that layer. So now if I start playing around with lightness, for example, or saturation, these guys over here, the P's in the corner, they're not going to be affected at all. So again, that took 2 seconds to make that mask. I don't have to fiddle around with the advanced color range adjustments here. Now I can just easily tweak and play, for example, as I wish. So the color editor, in summary, it's great for making broad selections, narrow selections. Don't forget your little trick with spanning the full saturation range and inverting as well. But if there's no way that you can isolate one particular color over another, then a quick layer like that is super easy. Super, that's a soupy tutorial. Exactly, Jonathan. Cool. Let's have a look at some questions. So we answered Lorenzo. Would you still carry out a color edit if you had black and white in mind? That's actually a really good question, because let's say we switch to black and white, for example. Let's turn on black and white like so. Now the fact that we've converted this into a black and white, is irrelevant really, because the underlying shot is still color. So if we still wanted to use the color editor change density, then we could do so. So if I went just to my background and pick the P's or whatever, then we can still make changes to a black and white. It's not something I do regularly, but you can definitely do it. Let's have a little look. So Mijanu says, that's brilliant. Glad to hear it. It is a really handy tool, and as soon as you combine it with layers, it's even better. Something which is often overlooked, which is even more brilliant while I think of it. This is probably not the best example, but I can just show you what's going on with it anyway. So let's just reset that. Let's pick our oranges again, turn on view selected color range. Let's expand this out a little bit, like so. Turn that off. Now in the sub menu of the color editor, you can do a couple of things. You can actually save a new profile for your camera if you've tweaked it, but notice this one that says create mask layer from selection. So that will take the color selection that you've done and turn it into a mask. So if I click once, watch up here in the layers tool, takes a few seconds. Now we've got a layer based on that color range. So let's zoom out a second. And if I press M to see the mask, so you can see the mask is just on those areas that we picked. Now to see that better, it's better if you turn on the grayscale mask, like so. So that's the exact area that was picked. Quite often when you make a mask from a color range selection, a next handy thing to do is to right click on that layer and choose refine. Because notice that it's quite binary, it's either black or white, there's not much gradation. So if we say refine mask, a little dialog pops up. If we boost this to the right, you'll see, can I zoom in while it's up? No, let's just cancel that for a second. Let's zoom in so you can see better. And I do the same thing again, right click, refine mask, boost this up a bit, and you can see how it blends into the neighboring edges nicer. Now this isn't the best example, but you can see how sophisticated a mask it can create. So if you have someone wearing a blue shirt that you want to select, or an area of landscape like greens or something like that, if you can select it with the color editor, you can kind of use the color editor also as a selection tool. So now if we say apply and just come back out, then you've got a pretty sophisticated mask just on that area. So if I mess around with exposure, for example, you can just see it brightening those areas that we had in the color selection. So I could lift those, we could add a bit more clarity, we could even sharpen them a little bit as well. So it's a way of kind of expanding the options in the advanced color editor from just those 3 sliders to various other things as well. Cool. All right. So that's probably as much as I can tell you about the advanced color editor. It's very simple. And yes, Flavio, if you didn't understand, we do have tutorials, and all our tutorials are subtitled in English, French, German, Spanish, Italian, Japanese, and Chinese. So if you go to our YouTube channel or our learning hub, learn.capture1.com, you can always pick up the subtitles, and there's plenty of opportunity to learn about all kinds of different things from our learning hub and so on. Oh, that's a timely question. Luigi was asking, can you share some advanced techniques for color grading? That's what we're going to look at next week. So on next week, we're just broadcasting on Wednesday and Friday because of Easter. So Wednesday, I think, is the day where probably have a look at color grading. My colleague in the background, Christine, will correct me if I'm wrong about my days, but I'm pretty sure it's Wednesday and Friday, and we'll look at that technique in detail. Okay, let me just check for a few other questions. Otherwise, I'll let you go on your way. Roger, I think answered your question. Can you convert your selected color range to a mask? I hadn't seen that one, but yes, that's a super easy technique to do as well. All right, I think that wraps us up for today. Many thanks for joining us again. Have a great Easter weekend at home. And yes, my colleague has confirmed it is next Wednesday and Friday. And Wednesday we'll be looking at the color grading. So that's our plan for next week. So enjoy your Easter weekend. Have a good one, and I hope to see you all next week as well. So goodbye from me for now, and see you all soon. Take care. Bye now.